Hello and welcome back to We Share Rio and Friends. Today we are going to be talking about a subject that's still considered a little bit taboo, and I've no idea why. This is why we're talking about it today. Perimenopause and menopause. We've got two amazing guests with us. Let's get to it. Hi ladies.
Hello, how are you doing? Hi.
Good, thank you so much for coming here today. I know you're both very busy. Let's kickstart with a little bit about you ladies. Who are you? What do you do? How long have you lived in Dubai? All that lovely jazz. Sharon?
Okay, yeah, sure. My name is Sharon James. I've been in Dubai for 16 years. I've been in the wellness industry for over 30 years and working with women going through the menopause for the last 10 years. So I'm a health and wellness coach, educator and advocate of the menopause. And I work in the holistic space. So I educate women on what it is, why it is, and the different choices that they have to go through it. And generally nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, and so on. So that's
Those important things.
the ones that we don't want to sort of change our habits for.
Yeah.
They're the hardest part.
We'll dive into that a little bit more later.
So I'm Roshani Hill, and similar to Sharon, I'm also in the wellness space. I support women through key hormonal transitions, so like postpartum, perimenopause, but also really getting women to understand their bodies uniquely through biochemistry, so functional blood work testing. So what is actually going on with their bodies, and really getting them to really understand what's unique to them. The reason I started doing this, I'm also having a wellness background. I was a health lobbyist, a head of health policy for the UK insurance industry, and one thing I learned working in that industry is that there is not enough done around women's health, particularly a lot of misconceptions around perimenopause and when it starts. You know, there's a lot of transition into menopause, which is, you know, the perimenopausal phase, that a lot of women don't understand what's going on with their bodies.
Yeah.
And I saw a huge gap, and I thought, okay, like I was going through my own journey, and I thought I need to do something to help women. I'm a massive research advocate, so that is something I really put forward in sort of supporting women to really understand the evidence behind what is actually happening.
Okay. All right. So when you say what is actually happening, I think for our novices out there who haven't quite reached perimenopause or menopause, let's first define what that is. What is perimenopause and what is the menopause? I mean, obviously I know, but I'm sure I can still be educated. I'm sure there are people out there that would really want to know the difference. So can someone kind of define the two for me?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you speak to women, and you talk about the menopause, they go, oh, I'm not there yet, because they think the menopause is the be all and end all of what we transition into. However, the perimenopause is the stage before that. And this is where our hormones are fluctuating. These are where the changes might start to happen. You get the symptoms coming up, like, you know, the usual ones, brain fog, and generally actually starts with your periods. So if you know your body and you start to see those changes, maybe heavier, lighter, not coming at all, that's an indication that you're heading towards that perimenopausal stage. And that's where the fluctuations start. You could be still having your period, so it's a little bit unknown when that might happen, but generally that's when it starts to happen.
So from what ages can that sort of start from, early or perimenopause? I know that you were triggered into an early perimenopause.
So, it's effectively, I think the hormonal shifts can start typically after the age of 35.
Right.
You might not see it, like Sharon mentioned, straight away. You can still actually have regular cycles at the start, but some of the hormonal shifts are starting to happen. And for me personally, I was diagnosed with something called premature ovarian insufficiency, which is effectively early menopause before the age of 40.
Right.
Now, I had honestly no idea about perimenopause and menopause until I went through it myself, which is why I'm on this huge journey to educate women. And a lot of women don't realize actually that my early onset was triggered from birth trauma.
Right.
And it can be triggered from an autoimmune attack on the ovarian function. It can happen when people go through chemo. It could be an unknown reason.
Okay.
But as we get going older in these later generations, this is something that's new actually. Menopause seems to be coming earlier than older generations. And this has got to do with the toxins in our air, the food that we consume, our lifestyles, completely different.
Is that also linked to girls going through puberty earlier and earlier.
It is. It's one of the, so effectively it's called the second puberty. If you want to be really simplistic about the transition, it's effectively the same kind of thing you go through in the fact that you're having hormonal shifts. It's a huge brain recalibration. People don't really know what's going on, and that's because there's not enough talked about transition. So it's not just about menopause. So when I said I'm going through early menopause, you should see the reactions in people's faces. They're like, you look too young. Why are you going through this? And I really felt that, there was some weird stigma attached to it. And I was like, well, think about, when you have your period, you don't have your period at the same time as your peers, right? You go through puberty in different phases, different stages, and that's okay.
It's like the bookend of puberty, isn't it? That's, we're getting all these hormones there and then they're declining here. It's just the other end of it really, isn't it?
Exactly.
So,
I feel like it's important for also our generation to be really educated and to also tell our younger, our children about what's going on, because it's kind of the same thing with puberty. I remember when I was growing up, no one told me anything about puberty. I remember navigating as it from a cultural perspective. My period's completely unknown about what's going on with my body. And I feel like that same stigma is now moved forward.
Isn't that crazy? Like, why is there such a stigma when it comes to the menopause in particular? I'm actually seeing more and more conversation around the perimenopause than ever before here specifically, which I think is great.
It is great, but there's sometimes the weird things have been happening. I've seen Primark pulling out perimenopause t-shirts. I was like, this is taking it too far.
What?
Yeah. So
Marks and Spencer's are doing, menopause range of clothing, which is great, but
it's like it's not.
What is that, extra cooling or something? Yeah. Because let me tell you something, right, ladies. Okay, I'm 44. I think I'm at the beginning stages of the perimenopause. I need to get blood works with you, maybe.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a weird age because you don't know if you're pregnant. You don't know if you're stressed, or you don't know if you're going through the perimenopause when your periods are all over the place, because you can still get pregnant.
Yeah, you can't really diagnose through blood. You can only, my situation, you can.
So how can you diagnose?
Because mine was based on too high follicle stimulating hormone. I'm talking extremely high, it was above 40 units per litre. And it's not meant to be that high. And within a month period of 2, I just knew that, luckily I was training as a functional health coach when I found out.
Yeah.
And I was like, gaslit by the doctors, told me I was too young. I was like, no, I've got all the classic symptoms, hot flushes, mid-wake sleeping. I felt really, really off. And I went from having a really healthy, first pregnancy to having really off, everything was off, cycles were off. And then I did these 2 tests within a month. And the follicle stimulating hormone was extremely high on both, which is basically, I was like, that's it. I've been diagnosed. That's how you diagnose premature ovarian insufficiency. Then I got the internal scan and it identified I had 1 follicle left on 1 ovary. Which is basically, the fact that I was going through this effectively early menopause.
Yeah.
But now I'm totally fine. When I say my symptoms, they're totally managed. I'm doing everything from a healing perspective, because when I went through the doctor, they didn't give me any solutions. They didn't explain why it was happening until I figured out it was more of an autoimmune response, because I had this trauma. But the point is, you can't diagnose through blood. So you can see hormonal shifts. You can see if someone's got really low progesterone in a specific part of their cycle. Is that normal? Are they ovulating? But then the symptoms itself are pretty much the indicator of understanding whether you are.
So the main symptoms, just to make it clear for the ladies and men, if you think your wife might be going through it, or your girlfriend or whatever, are leading into perimenopause are?
They could vary. I mean, when I first started training in this, there was 52 symptoms. Now there's over 100, because all these things keep. So the main ones are your brain fog, memory loss, night sweats, hot sweats, hair loss, vaginal dryness, heavy periods, itchy skin.
Migraines were another one. I think
is rage one of them?
Oh, anxiety,
heart palpitations. That was the one that I had. I was like, why am I having heart palpitations?
Wow.
And I actually thought something was really wrong with me, and it wasn't. I literally had no progesterone.
Okay, so effectively, the low progesterone causes all of this, because when we have normal levels of progesterone, it means that
it's an immune modulating hormone.
Okay.
So it's supports your immune function. So all of a sudden, the challenge with the reason why people have such different responses to perimenopause is because if you have any underlying health issues, your hormones were helping support these sort of issues. And I also call it the Jack in the Box trend of perimenopause. You could be having this injury that was healed years ago.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because estrogen is a very pro-inflammatory hormone, so all of a sudden it's going up and down during this we call it the fireworks display at the start. then all of a sudden, boom, these injuries from our past have come back. All of a sudden, people have got autoimmune disease out of nowhere. And it's because these things were hidden in the background, but have now finally coming to light.
Because you haven't got that protection anymore from the hormonals.
Got you. Okay. So I guess the crux of it is different for everyone, but there are some obviously key symptoms to kind of watch out for, which you've already explained. I think one of the reasons I really wanted to cover this show today is because my mum, I remember witnessing her go through a really kind of traumatic period of time over her when she transitioned into menopause, and it really affected her mentally. You know, her mental health really suffered. So it kind of made me a lot more aware of, right, I need to be guarded with the right information. I want to understand my body inside out, and I want to kind of provide a platform to be able to do that. Which moves me nicely into your menopause summit. Yes. I would love to know, I wanted to come last year, I was away, unfortunately. I'd love to come this year. I'd love to know more about it. How can women get involved? Where can they get tickets? Why did you launch the summit?
First of all, I launched it because of the reasons we're talking about today, is that we need to be educated ourselves and we need to educate others, and especially the younger generation, I think, as well. So I just wanted to put menopause on a bigger stage, on a bigger platform, so that we get maybe some policies put in place that we can work towards. And really just give that space to women to understand what it is, why we go through it, and all the variants that they have, the choices now to manage it. And so, yeah, we did it at the Museum of the Future last year in October.
Cool venue.
Yeah, and this year we're doing it at the Bin Rashid Library, which is another beautiful, iconic building. 23rd of October, so mark it in your diaries. It's out of the, because I think we did it in the holidays, so we're going to do it later. And again, we're going to have every kind of dimension that touches women, all the way from medical to holistic to well-being to confidence, careers, because a lot of women, have really bad impact on their careers because they're not confident enough. So we're having every touch point we possibly can that will help women transition this journey, because we've got a bigger space this year, so we're really excited. Even how to put your makeup on after the age of 40, because I'm useless. and your skin changes. Yeah. So how do we do that? Some people want to know that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
and
great.
I'd love to see some men maybe talk, because I think it can be really difficult for like the partner of a man, the partner of a woman, seeing them go through this change and kind of not knowing how you can help, or kind of not quite understanding their hormones, or why they might be raging a bit more than normal and things like that. I think for men to get involved in the conversation is really important.
And it's funny, we did have a section called Andropause versus menopause, and it was a really great panel. I think you've had Scott Armstrong on here before, he was a moderator for us, and we basically talked about that but it was so well received that we're doing it again this year.
What's andropause? What's andropause?
Andropause is what men go through. So as we lose our estrogen, progesterone and testosterone, they also have a decline, but not as rapid as ours. And you find that they lose confidence, they lose muscle mass, they lose their libido, for example. So they sort of go through that transition, and you can imagine they're at the same age as we are. And put teenagers in the house. Then you've got this
puberty, andropause, menopause. Got out the household.
A lot.
Do incorporate what happens in the family. We talk about it's open communication, and we're doing a lot more. We're gonna, I do this thing called Men Take a Pause, and I educate them what it is. We spoke about men being logic. They want to know what it is, why we get it, and how they can maybe co-share it, because we don't need fixing, which is what men try to do. They try to fix us. But we just need them to understand that if we are feeling a little bit anxious or in a rage, they just need to walk away, take a breath, give us a beat, and you find that it goes away, whatever we were stressed about, because we don't even know ourselves, to be honest.
Yeah, sometimes it can just, honestly, this is why I think I might be going through the early stages, because I find myself kind of just feeling like rageful more than I ever have. Just over the most silly things, and then I have to tell my husband I'm leaving the room because I cannot, I just need a break. you know? Whereas before I wouldn't necessarily have behaved that way.
And I think that's key, isn't it? It's understanding you.
Yeah.
And they know you. They know that this is not you. You know, there's a thing that, you know, these Instagrams, there's like, who's taken my wife and when will I get her back?
Yeah, I see it all the time.
I think men could get scared because obviously there's statistics coming out lately. I don't know where I read it, but someone said that, you know, women of menopausal age tend to initiate divorce more than any other. Yeah. I'm not saying it's because of the menopause, but I'm sure it has maybe a factor. They've reached a certain age, they know what they want, what they won't accept.
I think there's a couple of key things in there, and that, you know, we're losing that nurturing hormone as well, that we're always caregivers, and I think that veil sort of comes down slowly, and then we just, you know, don't take anything anymore. And you know, and I think you can't always put it down to menopause, but if there are things in the relationships that are wrong anyway, and it's coming to a natural end, we sort of get to that point where we go, you know what, okay, this is just not right for me or you anymore, and that's the sort of, you know.
Yeah, I think also the other thing I wanted to flag was that when I was going through, one of the key symptoms I had was like extreme fatigue, and I'm someone who's super energetic. Yeah. And I kept going, I'm like, I need to wake up. Like I couldn't wake up in the morning. I used to go to 5:45, I used to go to the gym, I used a machine, and I just could not get out of bed. Yeah. And my husband's like, there's something wrong with you. And he just kept telling me there was something wrong. And it actually made it worse because it was like, I'm telling you now, there's something off my body. Yeah. And that is when I started to really listen. So it's just important to, like, the biggest mantra for me is listen to your body and don't let anyone dismiss how you feel.
100%. Honestly, like just listening to your body and your symptoms, and if your gut feels something's off, go and get it checked out. So the first thing they should do, if someone thinks that they're going through the perimenopause or menopause, what's the first thing they should do?
Yeah, I feel like it's a really unique question, and it depends on where you are as well. Unfortunately, when I was in the UK and experienced, I had the most horrendous experience. Like I literally am still on the menopause waiting list for the NHS, which is pointless now, I'm in Dubai. But if I had to wait that long, I would honestly have been going silently mad because I knew something was off. But luckily I was able to do my own bloods, and I really believe in getting your blood work tested. The thing is, I'm not a conventional medicine practitioner. I look at it from a root cause lens. So I look at like what is driving the outcome. So, you know, what are the mechanisms that are resulting in me having these hot, like night sweats or whatever. And for me, I realized I had like a magnesium deficiency that was really affecting my nervous system. It is a huge, in perimenopause, one of the most important things is to support your parasympathetic state, that rest and digest state. And a lot of people are really stressed at work, they're really on the go. And if you're in this fight or flight state, you're in this constant state of inflammation as well. And this is where all the symptoms can get worse. And that estrogen drop from high to low is what causes those hot flushes as well. So then a lot of people don't understand. So if you go to the doctor and you're going to someone and talking about a non-specific symptom, like I have anxiety all of a sudden, or they're usually just like, it's fine, you'll be fine, you'll ride it out, it's normal. It's not normal, discomfort's not normal, but it's really difficult because you can't diagnose it through a blood test. But you can, if you do like functional blood work, understand what is driving nutrient deficiencies, if you've got inflammation-driven anemia, or if you've got insulin resistance, which is actually one of the biggest hormonal challenges you see during this phase. People putting fat around, like weight around the middle, you're like, why am I all of a sudden putting weight now? So this is the thing.
Tell me about it.
So then everyone's trying to find the conventional like solution, which is like calories in, it just doesn't work in this transition. So the doctor, unfortunately, the conventional space has a long way to go to support women in this transition. Because a lot of the time they haven't had the training themselves. Like less than 2.5% of reproductive health research goes in the UK, right? But that's, how can anyone support anyone with that? Like no research. So I think the best thing is to really find people that you trust and talk to, whether it's, you know, a holistic person, whether it's a functional health person, whether it's like, you know, someone who's gone through it themselves, and find out how that journey has helped you, because it's unique. But my biggest piece of advice is to actually really understand what is going on internally, because you can't really understand just by guessing. And
I think also as well on that, it's looking at yourself internally, but looking externally as well, because a lot of the symptoms that we get are through day-to-day life, like stress, anxiety, can't sleep, you know, extended stress with families and children. So a lot of the symptoms
are part of daily life anyway, so how do you know?
Exactly. So it's like do a journal, figure out what external stresses are being put on you, and can you alleviate some of that as well as go and get, speaking to somebody and have a look at your life holistically and see what you can take away and add to in terms of what self-care, for example. Women are so bad at self-care. We do it once and then we forget, and then it's one of those things. So really look at what's going on around you and take stock of that. I always say take a symptom checker into the GP as well, because it's you can see the changes that are going on a month by month basis. A journal, a diary, anything that will help you speak to them and have that conversation. In fact, tonight we're doing a conversation purely on how to have a conversation with your GP.
I'm sure that will be very useful, and I can put that on the social media, because I'll do like a we met today, we did the show. I can actually link to that. I don't know if they have to subscribe before, but
they could. But yeah, it's just something that women just don't do, because you've only got like 7 or 8, 10 minutes with the GP. How do you get
you don't. It's super hard.
Yeah.
But also you have to get the right GP as well. Like some aren't willing to listen, and actually, I cannot explain how many clients I've had who've got like non-specific symptom or anxiety, and they're just told to be put on antidepressants. Look, antidepressants have a role, but they also deplete key nutrients that are required as part of this transition, which is magnesium, zinc, all those things that get depleted. Yeah. So you have to understand, if you're going to go down like the more medical route and take medication, you got to understand the byproduct and what's happening to your body as a result of that. And that's just not something that doctors educate patients about. Yeah. And also another kind of situation I've seen with the doctors is that they'll go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you need to take HRT. And they're like, can I see my blood work? No, you just need to take it. And they don't show them why they need it. And people have come to me like, I don't want to take HRT. I'm like, that's fine. HRT is one route.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it's against it comes back to the same thing that Sharon also said earlier. Like, look at the bigger picture, because no one's going to fix you, right? You cannot ask someone else to be more responsible for your health than yourself. That's one really big lesson. And a lot of women come to me and they're like, honestly, they're like shift workers, or they have like really poor sleep patterns. The circadian rhythm's really off. They don't eat properly, and then they're trying to find a quick fix. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm going to be really blunt with you, but you need to take the step back, and it's all about actually fixing the underlying issues. Yeah. Wider again at your lifestyle, and what can you actually change that's quite simple in your life. You don't have to go on a strict anti-inflammatory diet. You just need to go onto like a more holistic journey and actually focus on the small things.
Yeah. So you mentioned HRT. So again, I want to kind of imagine people just don't know what these things are. So what is HRT? What does it stand for? And what does it do? And why are people kind of told to go and have HRT? And what are your opinions on HRT?
I think the first thing about HRT is women are generally scared of it because they don't know enough about it, first and foremost. There was a study done in 2002 with the Women's Health Institute that basically said HRT was associated with breast cancer. Yes. So millions and millions of women overnight threw their HRT in the bin, and that's probably my sister's or my mum's generation who went through without HRT, should they want it or not. So I think the first thing is that women are very skeptical about what HRT is. Yeah. And that's the first thing. Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, when it comes to HRT, it's down to, is it right for you? And basically it's a hormone replacement therapy, and it replaces the hormones that we're losing.
Okay, which are progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. Yeah.
So is it the right route for you? This is where the conversation with the GP GP would have that conversation. Or is it the holistic route? Yeah. I've chosen the holistic route. I don't take HRT. Yeah. That said, some people say, well, when you get to your 70s and 80s, it might not be good for your bone density, it might not be good for your heart and insulin resistance. But also, if I think that I'm looking after myself, those last decades of my life, then I should be okay to do that. Again, it's
everyone's different, aren't they? I know some people that swear by it and they say it's changed my life, and then other people are like, no, I can't because of my genetic history, because of this, and because I'm more holistic. It's up to the individual, I think, maybe.
And I think this is also, this is where blood work does actually have a role, but I think it's also the fact that there's something called estrogen dominance that typically happens as well. And this is why a lot of women get, I mean, I have clients who like literally bleed for 3 weeks non-stop. It's called menstrual flooding.
Oof.
And that's got to do with excessive prostaglandins, excessive estrogen versus the progesterone, which is declining. And in their case, imagine if they were prescribed HRT with a combined estrogen and progesterone, the symptoms that they're going through would be a million times worse. So actually what's really frustrating with conventional medicine is that actually the solution to that would be actually progesterone. And some of these clients have been asked to have hysterectomies, endometrial ablation, like having their uterine lining blasted. Now I'm like, and then they come to me and I'm like, look, instead of going down the HRT route, let's explore that as maybe the last option. Why don't you kind of look at focusing on, like, for example, dairy, it actually exacerbates the estrogen situation and causes the heavy bleeding to get, so removing that actually helps a lot. But for me personally, my progesterone was so low, and like actually, I only take bioidentical progesterone. I don't take estrogen, even though I was prescribed both. I was like, no, because in Australia where I trained as well, bioidentical progesterone is actually offered rather than the combined therapy. The combined therapy did not work for me. It made me break out in hives. And the reason why I decided to explore that is I had horrific sleep. I'm talking like, even though I'd gone on a gut healing journey, I'm very in tune with my body. I just couldn't nail down my sleep. And I take it 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I'm literally like, it's a game changer for me. I feel amazing. My immune system is way better. I used to get sick all the time, all of a sudden, not sick for a while now. So the point is, I found a solution that works for me. But I also tried the no HRT solution and saw the comparison. But I'm still constantly working on myself, right? But not everyone has to go down that route. But the worst part I find is that people being forced to do something without really understanding, and also bioidentical hormones, which is what I'm taking.
Say that again, bioidentical.
Bioidentical is basically mimicking the same hormones that your body is producing. This is where like it's evolved from like the generations of our parents. The progestin, which is not progesterone, is the fake synthetic hormone. This is where it typically has a lot of indirect adverse impacts, because it's affected what's in the oral contraceptive pill and things like that. And you see when people go through a withdrawal from the oral, because it's not actually a normal bleed, it's pausing ovulation. So people are wondering why when they stop the oral contraceptive pill, all these symptoms start coming out, because your body's basically stopped ovulation. So this progesterone that I take is bioidentical. It's not a progestin. So this is why the information out there is like,
so overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie to you ladies, because you're experts. This is all normal to you. So this is but for me, all these terminologies, these sayings, these things to take, it's so overwhelming. And this is why sometimes, even when I was like having multiple miscarriages, which I'm going to do another show about, found out I had an a condition, the MTHFR gene, or then suddenly I was learning about all this stuff, and I got so overwhelmed that I actually blocked it all out, broke it down, and refused to do anything about it, because it's just too much sometimes, all this information. And I think that the best thing that ladies can do, like you said before, is just start with having that open conversation. Like you said, writing everything down, going to your GP, and if your GP's being and not listening to you, also seek the assistance of people like yourself who specialize in this from more of a well-being, holistic perspective, right?
And that's why the hub is so good, because we're connecting with GPs, endocrinologists.
Because you should be working together.
So anyone that's struggling, they go onto the website and they can, they look. There's people on there that actually know about the menopause.
Because I don't know who should I see, what should I do? Like, I'm trying my best, like with vitamin, I'm doing the magnesium, which has made a massive difference in my sleep.
It's like a nervous system tonic, effectively. And people don't really understand, like, supplements aren't like, you have to find natural solutions, right? In the sense that it's not, you can get some really dodgy supplements. It really grates me when you see influencers like pumping out these like horrendous, like full of like bulking agents and stuff. So when I work with people, I make sure it's as natural as possible. But there's different types of magnesium. That all, again, is another minefield, right? So I think working with someone who actually knows what they're doing is super important, because the amount of people I work with who come to me and they've been taking, honestly, the most ridiculous supplements.
Don't just listen to someone who's got no certifications, no experience, education.
It's great. It's great that you're doing that hub. I think it's so needed. And we also, like, even with holistic practitioners, we work alongside conventional medicine. We don't compete with them. We're trying to support that whole journey. There's a role for everything.
Go on.
I think that's the key, isn't it? It's a community of people that can help you. It's not just one person. You need variants along the way, and even through perimenopause, we haven't even touched on exercise. That's a key
question. Yeah.
So I think you need a little bit. It's what it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
That's the same.
It takes a village to get someone through the menopause. Love that. Yeah, like one thing I've started to do is I've started to boot camp with the lady opposite me and weight train. Just weights, lifting. Yeah. Because I just keep hearing about how the muscle loss will happen and the bone density is important and movement is important. So it's not like I'm not, it's just a nice workout 3 times a week with the PT, with a lot of ladies of the menopause age. Yeah. And it's great. And I feel like it's given me a boost in energy. It's made me feel stronger. And then food and nutrition as well. Like I'm very much changing how I eat. But why am I doing this now? Like I wish I kind of started this like a decade ago to prepare me for now.
And that's the key message I think we need to sort of work on, we need to make menopause sexy again. It's about making it trendy, and so that the younger generation
can prepare. Yeah.
It's about, if you want to look fit, healthy, and still look young in your 60s and 70s, then start now and go through that journey. And a lot of information that is coming out now, thank God, is to do with women, for women, because back in the day there was even the diets that we've been brought up on, the yo-yo dieting and all sorts of stuff, was all based on white men. So it's not really relevant, and all it's done for us is mess with our hormonal system and caused what we spoke about earlier, all the onset puberty earlier and all the PCOS that women are going through and stuff like that. So, and in terms of exercise, gone are the days when women, obviously you need to gradually build up to it, of course, and look at your technique and everything, but the stronger you can get in the gym, the better it will be. Because we start to lose bone density in our late 30s, and we store it very well, but after that we don't. So we need to build up as much storage as we possibly can to help us through that. Because osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease and osteoporosis are the biggest killers of women.
I cannot explain how prevalent it is. The one thing I do see in like women in perimenopausal states, it's like a trifactor. There's perimenopausal symptoms also mimic thyroid disease, they mimic insulin resistance. So there's basically perimenopause increases the risk of insulin resistance, and insulin resistance increases the risk of thyroid disease. So it's literally like a triangle. And that's why you see it in like blood work. You see metabolic dysfunction and why women can't seem to lose weight. Their energy is super low. I mean, if I could write like a script of every single conversation, it's like the same thing. This is why I feel like I'm trying to really focus on trying to get support from metabolic, because people don't understand what metabolic dysfunction is. And it is the increase of cardiovascular risk. It's the increase of all of these issues later in life. And it's really difficult to tell someone in their like early 40s about something that's going to happen to them 20 years time. When I worked in policy, it was like I was focusing on policy to support people, and they're like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. But it always ends up happening to someone.
We all think that, don't we? Oh, it's years away. Oh, that's never going to happen. And then suddenly, bang, you're in the midst of it.
Yeah, and you only need to do 1 hour of strength training a week for to be like 70% reduction in cardiovascular risk, right? It's not like you have to be running marathons.
Yeah, yes, true. So, okay, there's a lot. I mean, one thing I love about living here, you're quite fresh off the boat into Dubai, I like to say. And you've been here 16 years, right? I've been here 17 years. One thing I love about the UAE, it's very progressive. Laws change very quickly based on demand, what they feel is needed, what the community is giving back. And recently we've seen the introduction of kind of 4-day working weeks with some companies. I know Natasha from Tish Tash is very sort of vocal and groundbreaking in terms of she gives, I think, days off for like periods, is it? Okay. And things like that. So which I mean, I think is great, because it can put the wind up you, sometimes, and knock you out for days. What would a menopause friendly work space look like? And do you think we would ever have something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with companies already who are putting this in place, and we were talking about it. Yeah. So basically, when you mention the word policy, they sort of freak out a little bit and go, oh my God, it's not going to work. But it's simple stuff like open communication, having information within the company that men and women can access, so that you're creating this awareness space. Look how far mental health and well-being in the workplace has come over the last couple of years here in the UAE. That just goes in there as well. So it's women's health. So it's having an understanding, like you said, some days it can knock us for six. Just being able to just stay at home and work from home and have that, flexibility.
With a hot water bottle.
With a hot water bottle, and maybe having a conversation that if we're not sleeping well, maybe not putting our meetings first thing in the morning, giving us time to sort of get ready and sort of come round. And we do a lot of training with line managers and managers as well, male and female. Getting them to understand what it is, why it is, and having that empathetic approach rather than, like a lot of just get on with it. Oh, there she goes again. Kind of.
Yeah, we're made to feel like we're mad.
Yeah.
I mean, I said to my husband, I can't remember, someone said, before I had children, I was always a night owl, very much, and a late riser. Night owl. I would go to sleep late. Then I had my son, and that all shifts, doesn't it? You become a morning person through no choice of your own, at least with me. And I was fine with that for a while. I actually really enjoyed waking up early, having that kind of quiet moment, having the coffee before the house goes mad, being able to get a workout in. But then I found a few years ago, it hit me again that I was waking up so tired in the mornings. And so I shifted, because I run my own business, I shifted my meetings to start from 10. And it's still that way now, because I still find myself extremely lethargic in the mornings. And I can't remember, someone said something to me, they said, oh, it's all right, you're lazy or something, because you don't get up first thing in the morning or whatever.
So rude.
Yeah, or something like that. Isn't that really lazy? And I was like, oh, it's okay for you. And I'm like, well, no, actually, because I'm listening to my body. And I know how I feel mentally, physically, and I'm most productive when I start my meetings from 10, and I was very this is my boundary,
100%.
But now it's like the jigsaw puzzles all kind of coming together, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is because I'm going through the perimenopause and I'm feeling this extra exhaustion in the morning.
And sleep is so important. When I work with my clients, that's the one thing that I start with, is the sleep. Because if you're not sleeping, it doesn't matter what you try and do, exercise, nutrition, it doesn't work. You're flawed.
It's 100% that, and that's why I'm saying, even with the shift workers and stuff. I have a client of mine who literally, she spends money on every fad you can possibly think of, and I think she messages me obsessively and says, oh, I need to try this, I need to try that, and she's had about 5 different surgeries. She's an American, so she's really into her surgeries, and I was like, no, you need to look at your sleep. She doesn't sleep at all. She sleeps she wakes up at 4 o'clock and does work and then goes back to sleep. And I'm like, your whole circadian rhythm. And she's like, I'm getting really bad hot flushes. I've given her natural things like Vitex, and she doesn't take Bioidentical anything, but she's just like, I can't get rid of it. I'm like, that's because you're not sleeping. Your nervous system is so dysregulated.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter how many times I've told her, she just doesn't want to listen to it. So yeah.
I think that's the key with a lot of things. And I often say that the first symptom is denial, and it's denial that you're heading into that direction anyway. But second of all, it's letting go of things. Your body's going to change, regardless of whether you go on that journey with it or not. It's going to change, and the mindset has to change with it. So you mentioned dairy before. I am absolutely a dairy queen. I loved cheese, but the one thing that I cut out was dairy. Yeah. And it helped massively with my symptoms. Yeah. Meat was another one. Do I eat meat and cheese every now and again? Of course, but I know that it's not going to impact me as much as it did. So it's letting go of habits that don't serve you anymore. These are the things that we are in control of, and I think that's the first key, where you've got to sort of start. Alcohol is another one. Women it doesn't serve you well. All the sugars, and it has a massive impact on you. So it's just letting go of those things, and there are other things that replace it. Of course there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still drink alcohol, but I do placebo as well. I drink kombucha in the champagne glass and I pretend that it's like, it's actually a
So
really
it makes
good,
you think
it's
like.
a really good placebo.
But you've got drink dry now.
The great thing about living here, again, obviously it's a Muslim country.
Yeah.
So, you know, all the non-alcoholic beverages that look like could be bubbly or a gin exist and so easily accessible. And it is the placebo effect. You're drinking it, you kind of feel like you're tipsy. Yeah. Yeah. So, and actually, I think I literally had a hot flush while you ladies were talking. It just comes over you, and you kind of just suddenly feel very heated and sweaty. Is that right?
Yeah.
I just think I had a hot flush, or maybe it's the placebo effect.
You never know, probably. And it's also the heat doesn't help. You never
Yeah.
know if it's the heat or a hot flush.
That's another thing. We were at the beach, not the beach, the pool the other day, and the boys were having an amazing time. And I was having an amazing time, but then suddenly I just got so hot and I was like, I have to go. I was like, you guys stay here. I can't sit here anymore. Like, I'm literally burning up. And my husband thought I was mad. He was like, but just go and sit in the pool. And I'm like, yeah, but no, I need to go. So
It makes you feel agitated as well.
it just makes me feel really, I just wanted to get into cold air conditioning, have a lemonade and just lay there like this.
Yeah.
And I think with the hot flushes as well, going back to supplements, is really understanding why you're taking supplements, because I didn't really suffer with a lot of hot flushes until I started taking ashwagandha.
Oh, interesting. It made it actually worse.
Oh, I've got a bottle of that at home. I haven't taken it.
It was like a river running down my chest.
I never suggest ashwagandha. I feel like
Oh, wow.
saffron's a really good natural anti-anxiety.
Yeah.
But ashwagandha, I actually don't think the research is very good for it.
I was on fire. My body was burning. So, and I spoke to a friend and she says, what have you done differently? And I goes, somebody recommended on Facebook, take ashwagandha. And I thought, all right. Anyway,
Oh.
yeah, exactly. So, when somebody puts something on a Facebook group and they go, can you recommend it? And all these things, one thing is just don't.
Yeah, and also listen to what you really need, because like I think some people I think the magnesium is super. I think the one supplement I would say everyone needs.
That means being a game changer for me.
And also some people have it really bad, but if you have the earlier stages, like balancing progesterone instead of taking hormone replacement therapy like Vitex, is a natural one that helps to balance the progesterone levels. But again, not everyone needs that. Sometimes people are too far gone for it to even impact anything.
To be worth
So
it,
for me,
yeah.
I don't take it because it doesn't just impact me. I'm too later stages of perimenopause.
Yeah.
But it's just understanding where you are in the cycle. It's not, you just don't wake up one day with, you have 4 distinct stages.
Yeah, I do feel like it's a slow burn with me. I feel like it's just, I'm getting there, you know. And I just keep hearing people talking about it on social media, like Helen from Dubai, of my friends who are influencers, they're all talking about the perimenopause at the moment.
It's good though. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. And that they think they're going through it. They want to learn more. They want to talk more about it. And again, we're talking about it here.
Yeah, and I think it's trying to break that stigma around it, because it's not all bad. There are some positives, and a lot of women that come through it are healthier, stronger, mentally and physically. So there are, you don't have your periods anymore, which some people think it's a blessing, but the longer you can keep hold of those, the better for your body. Yeah. But there are positive things, getting rid of your husband, one of them.
I'm quite happy there. I do think I'm lucky with the husband. But so what's one of the worst pieces of advice you ever got in regards to the menopause?
Do you know what really, really bugs me is when people think it's like an illness. Yeah. And it's like, I've been diagnosed.
It's like pregnancy. They think it's a disability.
Have you been diagnosed with puberty? It's the same thing. Why would you be diagnosed? It's like a natural transition that every single woman is going to go through.
Yeah.
So then you're not being diagnosed with it. So then that's pissed me off about it the most. You've been diagnosed with early menopause. I'm like, okay, so I've got a condition that basically kickstarted me into an earlier start.
Yes.
But that is okay. I'm very aware of what's going on with my body. And everyone's always like, oh, how do you look like? I look way better now than I ever did in my 20s.
Yeah.
Because I'm super aware. I, weight train, I eat really well.
Yeah.
And I've always been active, but I was never as probably as balanced as I am today.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 kids, So it's like, I actually feel great. But that's because I'm very in tune with what's happening.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a lesson for me to teach other people how to be that way.
you're calling.
But that's the one thing that really annoys me. Never use the word like diagnose. I think it's not an illness, it's a transition.
Right, okay.
And I think, obviously it is at a certain age we do go through it, but it doesn't mean that we should be put out to pasture. Do you know, it's a natural process, and it doesn't matter what age you are, you're still
There's so much toxicity out there on social media, I've noticed, especially coming from certain platforms and men, and even some women. I just see these kind of comments, and again, I think this is a whole nother show, like midlife awakening, I'm going to call it, not midlife crisis, where it's just like, oh, I'm hearing words like expired about women who are in their 40s, 50s, aging. There's like this kind of clash between women who go for surgery or Botox or whatever, and then there's the women that want to age completely naturally, and they seem to be fighting with one another, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on?
And this has a massive impact on the workplace as well, because we spoke about it earlier, and it's like women are usually passed over because of their age, and because of they think that they're past their expiry date. And also women in the workplace as well, when we talked about what the workplace can do for them, is that some women actually feel that they don't get the support. They don't feel that they can do their job effectively because they're going through this transition. They're usually quite smart. Their brain switched on, but tomorrow they couldn't remember your name, and that happens. So they feel that they need to leave their job because they feel in fear that they're going to lose their job because they don't do it as effective as they used to do. So it has a massive impact, not only just in women themselves, but in the industry, losing skill sets of what women can bring at this age as well. So.
But then on the flip side, we're amazing at this age, 40s, 50s, late 30s, because we're a lot more emotionally intelligent, I feel. We've gone through a lot of failures, lessons, we've come out the other end. And like you said, women of that age and that generation are looking so much more amazing than we ever did before. So I look back and I'm like honestly, purple rinses, flowery dresses, like.
I used to iron my hair, like physically put my hair on the iron board and iron it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not being funny, but like.
But if you look at the women,
women are hot of that age, of this generation.
If you look at the Golden Girls, they were the menopausal kind of,
Crazy.
And then you've got Jennifer Lopez, you've got us, all the women now who are going completely different, like the way that we look after our body.
And people are like, oh yeah, but they've got personal trainers and they've got this and that. I'm like, no, I know many women, just normal women here at that age that are looking fab, and taking care of themselves and working out and eating well. And, it's because we're becoming more educated. We understand, and also the younger generation, that's impacting the younger generation, because back in the day, like when we were teenagers or early 20s, we were doing some very naughty things.
We could get away with it.
And we could get away with it. But like my younger cousins and things these days, like they want to work out, they're well into their health and fitness, they're teetotal, they don't go to the clubs. I'm like, what has changed?
No, it's so funny, isn't
What's changed?
Something, and they said all the students now are doing pottery classes and knitting. I was like, whoa.
I know.
My son's doing pottery classes, but he's only 8.
My husband has his health food business, but all the staff are really young. They're in early 20s in the UK. And at Christmas, he got these bucket loads of booze, thinking that they're all going to be in their 20s. Honestly, he came back with the whole bucket load back, and he's like, I think maybe 1 or 2 people drank, and I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's a good shift though.
Yeah, because it's also like, people would always be like, no, it's free, right? But the fact they're saying no, I was like, that's great.
Yeah. So what's one wellness hack you guys would swear by that's really made a difference to your life? I know you've explained you've mentioned magnesium.
I think I honestly used to undereat, and I used to undereat protein before.
Right.
What's made my body physically transform in a way more leaner way is I always eat enough protein with every meal. I literally I was super under eating in my 20s. I
Right.
just don't know what. I think I was in a
Weren't we
corporate
all?
job,
Yeah.
really busy, and I eat all the time now. And actually eating more is what caused my metabolism to really kickstart and actually be more effective.
Yeah.
So I would say don't undereat because undereating is a super stress on the body and it's going to make it worse for perimenopause.
Yes.
You need to get those nutrients in, and you need to have a balanced, always get enough protein, because if you undereat protein, you'll see it again. See all the time, blood, like lower creatinine, low muscle mass. You need to fuel that muscle.
Yeah.
You're losing so much muscle as you age,
So
right?
important.
Naturally. So if you don't and you undereat protein, it's going to make things worse. And you don't get sugar cravings. Like the more I was eating protein, I realized I don't even crave sugar anymore. And I used to massively when I worked in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd second that. I think that and exercise, because protein you should be having a minimum of 1 gram per your body weight. That's the minimum. And then fiber is another one that so women usually are in an underfed state naturally. We just don't feed ourselves because we think the more we eat, the more fat. Yeah. And then when it comes to training, try and lift as heavy as possible. Get some HIIT training in there, some jump training, so that you're hitting the floor. Because a lot of women stop doing. I don't mean running. I mean jumping, like box jumping, to stimulate the bone density. And yeah, just really look after your nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress. I know it sounds like a cliche, but they're the 4 things that I would really work on.
Completely agree. And I think like that circadian rhythm is super important. Like I always say, wake up in the morning, try and get 15 minutes of sunlight in the morning so your body knows it's awake. And I think like the blackout blinds and like even like last night, my daughter, she opened the curtain by accident and like I didn't notice that it wasn't closed and the lights like seeped in. So I woke up this morning at 4:30 and it really threw out my whole morning because I was already awake. So it's just the simplest little things like that.
Yeah, great advice. Okay, if you had one message you wish every woman in her 30s and 40s could hear, what would that be?
What you do now is going to determine your future. So in terms of what your 30s, 40s are going to look like, it's basically what you're doing in your body is going to determine whether you're going to be a fit and happy, healthy mum or friend or whatever you want it is, or you're going to be a frail and disabled person. Or riddled with chronic disease. I see it in my mom. She can barely stand up because she doesn't do any training. She's young and she literally looks like she's in like her late 90s. And it's because of the poor decisions that she made in her 30s, 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So listen to your body now and take action now and don't wait till chronic disease, because it's like the biggest analogy I want to say is like, do you wait for your car to break down? Do you wait till like to refuel? You don't, right? So you might as well.
Some people do.
I know. Okay, not good analogy for you. But for me, like I got like this paranoia. I never let it go lower than the quarter. But the point is that you just don't want it. You want to wait till before it hits chronic.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'll echo that as well, but just embrace it. Don't be afraid of it, because that will stop you taking the right actions to live your life in the full. And educate your younger generation. If you've got daughters, have that conversation with them. If you've got nephews, nieces, have that conversation with them so they don't leave it that late and to do something about it.
And your sons. I talk to my son about it, like the period, is everything about the period. We even had a conversation this morning about like the egg and why ladies bleed and things like that with child-friendly language. Obviously I'm not going to disturb him. But he's very aware now, and he's like, "Oh, okay, mummy, you're on your period," and now he knows about the perimenopause.
That's great.
I'm sorry, sweetheart, I didn't mean to get shouty then. I think I'm just going through the perimenopause. What is that, mummy? Well,
because when they go to school, they'll see the changes in the girls around them as they get older and stuff, and they can be more empathetic about it. And when we were at school, we used to get probably bullied about it, or we'd used to hide it or dread that PE or whatever. And
don't talk to me about doing PE. And I also remember when I came on my period, and I was in Sweden. That's where I became a woman. I was in Sweden, and I remember my grandma. She seemed to have this she knew. I remember having a conversation with her before. She was like, we were in Boots. She was like, I'm going to get you some pads because I have a feeling you might come on your period. And I was like, no, I'm not. I was so angry. I didn't want to come on my period. But yeah, lo and behold, it happened in Sweden. She was all prepared. And because she's Sri Lankan, I got gold. They made a bath for me with petals in there.
That's what I got, a period party.
Yes.
Did you get the period party? I had the period party.
They were celebrating it. I got
was horrendous.
gifted. There was like petals and like aromatherapies in the bath, gifts. It was a big thing. And I thought that was really beautiful. I think every girl should have that actually when she comes on her period. But then I remember screaming at them going, no, and running up a tree in the forest.
You sound like what I did. I actually got really upset.
Just like, I'm not, I don't want to. But yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing to end on. But anyway, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today.
Thank you.
I think we've had a really healthy conversation. I would love you guys to sign up for the Menopause Summit if you're interested. How can people attend? Do they need to buy tickets? How much are tickets?
Yep, so the tickets are going to go on sale in the next couple of days.
Yep.
And if they want to jump onto the GCC Menopause Hub, they can register onto our newsletter and then we'll send all the information out once we've got that. 23rd of October, put it in your diary.
Great. If you need more speakers, you should connect. Connect.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay, so if you've enjoyed the show today, or you know someone who's struggling with menopause, perimenopause, or needs to learn more, please do like, share, and comment on this post, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.